This week in game news, Final Fantasy IX was released on iOS and Android, Blizzard turned 25, Quantum Break got a PC port announced, there will be no new Assassin's Creed this year, however Watch Dogs 2 is coming out in 2017, 2009's LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga was re-released on Mac, Frozen Synapse 2 has been announced, Trials HD, Sam & Max Beyond Time and Space, and LEGO Batman are now available on the Xbox One, and Splatoon's next Splatfest will be Pokemon Red vs. Blue. This is the Blackman and Robin Game News Update.
Hope to live up to the high expectations that you guys have of us. I'm really excited to see what will happen in the next 25 years.
First off, we have a bit of sad news this week. Game Trailers is no more. The Game Media Network brought, as you may guess, game trailers to the internet. Some of the younger folks watching this show might not realize it, but for a while, YouTube was not the place to go for game trailers. It was game trailers. Besides the obvious, game trailers was also a place to go for Screw Attack, Angry Video Game Nerd, and other big gaming media properties. They were around for a good 13 years. Game Trailers was purchased by Defy Media in 2014, a larger company that owns several other online properties, including The Escapist. We at Blackman and Robin wish the staffers displaced by this shutdown the best. Personally, I'm saddened by the shutdown, but not completely surprised. Maintaining a staff and site is quite an expense. Right now online, it seems that the best way to run a gaming site is with a small, slim operation. I can predict that while we may see more sites like Game Trailers shutting down, we'll see smaller, skinny sites doing better in the long run, unless something big somehow changes in the world of online advertising, or the way that people watch shows about video games.
It's been pretty sweet. I hope that you can take everything that you learned here and that it's good for you. I don't know how much educating I've done. I've just had fun for 13 years. You know, it's all blur. It was a lot of fun. I think in a weird way, if I am glad at all that it got shut down, it's because I could never leave. So it's like, well, at least somebody else made that decision, so I didn't have to, you know, come in and tell you guys for some dumb reason. Like, I don't want to work with you anymore. I want to do something else. Nothing has come up that I wanted to do, so I'll have to figure out what that is. But thank you guys. You guys are amazing, but thank you. Thank you, Jones. Thank you, Jones. Thank you, Rockstar. Rockstar, you're the real MVP, Rockstar.
Now, remember the Humble Monthly Bundle? It's the subscription service from Humble Bundle that I admittedly had some reservations about initially. It didn't seem to bring much to the table, and I wasn't a big fan of the lack of transparency, but looking at it now and the way that it's developed, it seems like a good service to subscribe to if you don't have very many video games. Well, it looks like the Humble Monthly Bundle is now doing something new. They've introduced what they're calling Humble Originals, which are experimental games that'll be published first through the Humble Monthly Bundle. Their first game, Elephant in the Room, admittedly looks pretty rough, but again, it's an experimental game. Personally, I like the concept. In game releases this week, Arslan, The Warriors of Legend was released on the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and Windows. Based on the recent anime adaptation of the story of Prince Arslan, it follows the titular prince and his legendary warriors on a journey to take back the throne of Persia. This action game plays rather like a Dynasty Warriors game, that is, you fight a whole bunch of dudes with an overpowered character on a large battlefield. Thus far, the game's gotten surprisingly good reception, particularly on PC, which has historically gotten the short end of the stick for these sorts of games. If you're a fan of the show, or Dynasty Warrior style games, check out Arslan, The Warriors of Legend. The hotly anticipated Firewatch was released this week on Windows, Mac, Linux, and the PlayStation 4. Set in 1989 in Wyoming, you play as a man named Henry who's recently taken up a job on a distant mountain looking for smoke, the signal of a possible forest fire. The thing is, only you can prevent forest fires, and it's been an especially dry year. Irresponsible campers could wreak havoc. Your supervisor, Delilah, communicates to you through a walkie-talkie. The game is largely about your relationship with Delilah as you monitor the wilderness in order to protect it. Thus far, the game's gotten great reception from players and press. It's been described as a very beautiful walking simulator, which is not necessarily a bad thing, though some players have complained about its brief length. If Firewatch sounds like your sort of game, check it out. Do you yearn for a cute red doll made of yarn? If so, there's a game out this week that's just for you. Unravel. Unravel is an adorable platformer in which you play as Yarny, a yarn doll who's on a mission to bring together a family's old memories. The game's gotten pretty good reception thus far. I've not played it, but I'm very fond of the game's aesthetic and concept. The puzzle platforming gameplay looks neat as well. As the game's title implies, you're unraveling throughout each level. It's important to take care that you not unravel completely as you use your yarn to solve puzzles. The primary complaint that I've heard from reviewers regarding Unravel is that the puzzles do get a little bit repetitive at times. Beyond that, however, Unravel is very well put together, and it's been getting a lot of love from the press and the players. Unravel is out now for Windows, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4.
No matter how complicated or scary things might seem, if you persist and put the effort in, you can overcome pretty much anything, no matter how small you think you are.
If you prefer something a bit wordier, The Daring Mermaid Expedition was released on Steam this week for Windows, Mac, and Linux. It's a choose-your-own-adventure from Choice of Games, and thus far, it's gotten good reviews. I can't comment on this one since I don't play a lot of CYOAs, but I have heard fantastic things about the titles from Choice of Games. Check it out if you're a mermaid or merdude. The game's also available on iOS and Android.
Andrea Phillips, author of The Daring Adventures of Lucy Slocart. Your choices control the story. It's entirely text-based, without graphics or sound effects, and fueled by the vast, unstoppable power of your imagination. Will you join the illustrious ranks of the society, or wind up in prison for scientific fraud? Spend the rest of your life living underwater, or be devoured by carnivorous fish people? You're on a mermaid expedition. It's time to sink or swim.
Street racing fans have something to rejoice over this week. The new Need for Speed game, which was creatively titled Need for Speed, is coming to Windows. This PC port of the game is in development by Ghost Games and boasts some shiny new graphical features. You can play at 4K at an unlocked frame rate. Also, if you're a fan of manual transmission, that's a feature heading to the PC version of the game. According to a post on the game's official website, manual transmission's also going to make its way to the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions of the game via a patch. Need for Speed for PC will be out on March 15, 2016. If you love football and cars and wish that the two were combined, you may have heard of Rocket League. If the game excites you but you're an Xbox One gamer, great news. The game now has a release date for the Xbox One of February 17, 2016. Speaking as somebody who has played plenty of Rocket League, I can honestly say that it is a fantastic game. One of the best releases of 2015, Rocket League combines two things that I'm not so keen on, soccer and automobiles, and somehow through the ridiculous mixing of these elements has created a game that appeals to soccer fans, to car fans, and to people who don't even care about either one. Rocket League is also available on PC and PlayStation 4. A while ago, we covered a piece of software called Zelda Maker. It allowed you to create your own Legend of Zelda-styled game. Good news, the game, or at least the game development tool, has been renamed to Legend Maker, and it has received an update that brings plenty of fresh elements. Additionally, the developer's planning on running a Kickstarter to fund additional development of Legend Maker, which is pretty neat in itself. Personally, I love the idea of this, but I am worried that even though it's no longer known as Zelda Maker, Nintendo's going to hit this poor fellow with a DMCA for making something that so clearly rips off Zelda. If Legend Maker were released 3 or 4 years ago, it might have had a better chance of not being hit with copyright issues. In 2016, however, Nintendo might see this piece of software as stepping on their toes, especially considering that they released a game called Mario Maker in 2015, which had a very similar premise, just for making Mario levels, and that was a huge success. Legend Maker has a lot of potential for conflict with Nintendo, especially if, following on the heels of Mario Maker, they decide to release a game that lets you make your own Legend of Zelda levels. We'll be keeping a close eye on Legend Maker. Hopefully, Nintendo allows it to exist. If you're excited for the upcoming Quantum Break, you may be pleased to hear that the game has been confirmed for a Windows 10 release. It was previously an Xbox One exclusive. It's launching on both platforms on April 5th, 2016. If you pre-order the game digitally on the Xbox One, you'll get a free copy of the PC version. Further, Quantum Break supports cross-platform saving, meaning that progress you make on one version of the game can be transferred to the other, which is a nice touch. That's not all, however. The Xbox 360 version of the game Alan Wake is coming to the Xbox One via back compatibility, and pre-ordering Quantum Break, Remedy's previous game, will net you a copy of the creepy Alan Wake and Alan Wake's American Nightmare, plus the Writer and the Signal DLC. In case you're wondering what Quantum Break actually is, it's a time-bending third-person action game that has a live-action series in development alongside the game. The whole thing's in development by Remedy Entertainment.
This time, I'll save you.
Are you into mechs? Are you into television shows and video games about mechs? If so, there's a chance that you're excited for the upcoming Titanfall 2. If so, we have news for you. This week, it was announced that Titanfall 2 not only is in development, but will have a single-player campaign. This is in contrast to the original game, which was multiplayer only. According to an interview at Forbes, Jesse Stern, lead writer on Titanfall 2, says that the new game will be on all platforms and that rather than taking a traditional sci-fi approach to that, we wanted to look at how that would happen practically, what the ships would look like, and with machines that were designed for excavation and construction, demolition and working the land, and what happens when they're turned into instruments of war. Further, it was revealed that a Titanfall television series is in development in conjunction with Lionsgate TV. Are you excited for Titanfall 2 and hoping it really does get a multi-platform release? Hit us up on Twitter and let us know. If you're a developer, you might have been excited by Amazon's surprise announcement of Lumberyard this week. Lumberyard is a game engine that you can download for free to create your own games. Lumberyard offers developers direct access to Amazon's cloud services as well as Twitch.tv, which, in case you've not heard of it, is an online streaming service where people gather to watch other people play video games. Lumberyard being free to download and employ is interesting. Amazon's plans for monetization all seem to be hinging on people employing Amazon cloud services in their games which, when built with Lumberyard, have an easy and direct link to the aforementioned cloud services. Lumberyard integrates some chunks of Crytek's own CryEngine, which is quite interesting. Seeing as I'm not a game developer, however, I don't have that much personally to say about Lumberyard, but if you happen to be a developer and you have some thoughts on Lumberyard, please let us know what you think on Twitter at Blackman and Robin. We'd be happy to share your thoughts on next week's episode.
Help those developers achieve their vision. It's a much, much deeper relationship with the customers and the communities than I think we've ever seen before.
In crowdfunding news this week, we've come across a crowdfunding campaign for the film Thank You for Playing, which is about Brian and Amy Green, the developers of the game That Dragon Cancer, and the parents of Joel Green, whose life the game chronicles. This documentary has actually already been produced. The purpose of the Kickstarter is to bring Thank You for Playing to theaters, which is a rather expensive proposition. The Brooklyn-based filmmakers need about $30,000. That should adequately cover the costs of distribution. If you'd like to be part of this Kickstarter project, we'll have a convenient link to it at blackmanandrobin.com.
Australia and Korea.
We've been thrilled by the responses received in screenings and in the press. One gaming magazine even called it the best video game movie ever made.
But Thank You for Playing is more than just a video game movie. It's also a love story. It's a story about art. It's a story about technology and our relationship to it, which is something we're all still trying to figure out.
It's also a story about how we communicate with each other and what it means to love fully and what it means to love fearlessly. It's unlike a lot of films we've seen before.
That's not the only Kickstarter we featured this week. Revival Productions, a studio made up of some of the former developers from Parallax, are working on a new 6 Degrees of Freedom shooter called Overload. The game aims to pick up where Descent left off. Personally, I think this looks pretty cool. I do remember seeing another rather similar game on Kickstarter a while back. Perhaps we're seeing a resurgence of 6 Degrees of Freedom shooters? Perhaps we are. Overload is set to be released March of 2017, and the game is coming to PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. A rather cute trailer has emerged for the upcoming cornerstone, The Song of Tyrym, an open-world fantasy RPG with Vikings, puzzles, and sailing. The game seems to draw some inspiration from The Legend of Zelda, Wind Waker, and it looks quite promising. Finally, we have a new trailer for the upcoming console release of Screensheet. The game is coming to the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 on March 1st, 2016.
Hey!
Hold up, when we play FPSs, we have a serious problem with screen cheating.
We don't have a problem. You are most of our problem. Your problem.
And so, I have developed this anti-cheat shield.
Is this better?
It's different.
I'll improve it for next time.
This is not an improvement.
It's an iterative process, Dave.
It's really warm in here.
It's cozy.
I'll improve it.
Hey, Brian.
I'm almost done. This will be great.
Check this. This is super involved, by the way. I found an FPS where you literally
have to screen cheat.
What's it called?
Screen cheat.
Oh.
All the players are invisible, so the only way to know where anybody is by looking at the other screens.
That's all great, but Jane is out. Her car broke down.
That's fine. It has online multiplayer too, but you still see all 4 screens.
Rad.
Wonder if I can return all this wood.
Well, that's it for this week's game news. For all the latest game news, reviews, previews, and interviews, be sure to follow at Blackman and Robin on Twitter and Instagram. Be sure to follow me at Jordan_Cameron for my own views. Check out our site, blackmanandrobin.com, for convenient links to the Kickstarters and other neat stuff from this episode. Oh, you were hoping for something more to watch? Well, thanks for sticking around. Here's a preview from the upcoming next episode of the Blackman and Robin Irregular Game Show. It'll be a special episode on virtual reality and where it's heading in the year 2016. Enjoy. While I can't say for certain that we're heading towards the depressing reality that is Ready Player One, we are heading for another reality in the book, virtual reality. Virtual reality is a technology that's been with us for quite some while, but it's not quite taken off until today. So where does one start with regards to the history of virtual reality? Some would point to the Viewmaster, which was actually quite successful during the early 20th century, but it wasn't at all electronic and had nothing to do with video games. Still, others would point to the 1980 arcade game Battlezone, which employed false 3D and goggles. It's a game that many point to as being the first virtual reality game, and Battlezone is being remade for modern systems. Wherever it is that you prefer to start with regard to virtual reality, today we're not looking back, but forward to what virtual reality innovations and games and other inventions we have to look forward to in 2016.
Game trailers.
Thank you, everyone.
I hope you land on your feet, Lightning.
She's got the advertising gig. She's good.
Yeah, she's a model.
Louis Vuitton, Don.
Yeah.